Thanks to all those who've joined. I really appreciate it. My name's Max. I'm going to be your host today. I'm part of the apprenticeship team here at Community Matters. We are here to talk about tailored GP practice apprenticeship, specifically the GP practice operations management standard, which is by far our most popular apprenticeship and is having, so I'm just letting a couple more people go through. Saskia, is that okay if you can pick that up? Thank you.
Yes.
So yes, which is our, as I said, by far our most popular standard and having some real impact both on the individuals who are going on the learning journey and developing new skills and furthering their careers, and indeed on the practices and the employers. So in terms of content today, should take us around about 30 minutes. So we've got plenty of times for questions at the end. If I could just ask you all to save up those questions for the end, pop them into the chat box on your Teams, or just put your hand up when we finish. Meeting is being recorded as well. Looks like most of you have cameras off. So yeah, if you don't want your face on film, then keep them off or turn them off if indeed yours are switched on. I think that's probably everything I need to say before we jump in. And hopefully by the end of it, you're going to, whether you're joining as a candidate who's interested in the apprenticeship, whether you're joining maybe as an employer, a line manager interested for your staff, I'm hoping by the end of it, you're going to have pretty much all the information that you need to make an educated decision as to whether to pursue this further or indeed otherwise. So let's crack on. We'll be covering lots of stuff: eligibility, suitability, the curriculum itself, what's entailed. I just wanted to do 2 minutes on Community Matters. I think a lot of you guys will probably have heard of us, will know us already from the work that we do within the training hubs. Play a big part in the orchestration and delivery of the North East London Training Hub. Very much involved in Northwest London as well from a program management perspective. So our background, what we've been doing for the last plus 15 years, is training hub consultancy, workforce development. Predominantly across health and social care, predominantly within primary care. And really, when it came to apprenticeships, it was simply a case of, we're providing all these trainings from those training hubs. And about 4 or 5 years ago, our stakeholders there saying, well, hey, what about apprenticeships? Because this is a really good way to get some really comprehensive training for our staff, and obviously training that's also government funded. So we began our journey then. We've been an accredited apprenticeship provider for the last 4 years, and we're delivering apprenticeships, obviously, as you would imagine, the training hub and primary care, but also wider than that. We're also delivering to the wider public sector and indeed the third sector and the charitable sector, and just a few of the organisations that we're lucky enough to deliver to and call partners. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an appreciation of ourselves. These are the standards that we deliver. As you'll notice, a lot of them tailored and contextualised, specifically for primary care, and obviously today we are here to talk about this one. So why are many individuals from primary care going on this journey with us, and why did we take the effort alongside a lot of our stakeholders within primary care to tailor this standard, to take this standard from something that's vanilla to something that's contextualized for that audience. And we had many conversations over 2 years ago that we started this journey. And I guess what we understood is, what are the goals, what are the challenges that we're seeing within primary care? And we looked at these two sort of different but similar populations, I suppose. The sort of general administrative population within practice, and then those practice managers and those future practice managers. And what we wanted to make sure is that we had apprenticeships, for all those who kind of sit within those populations. So we've got that, we've got the business administration, which is generally more for administrative staff who aren't managing individuals and aren't managing things, and probably are more towards the start of their career, but not always. And then the operations manager, and we'll talk more about the kind of typical job roles that sign up and go on this journey. But really, the best way to think about it is trying to create something for individuals that are either managing people or managing things. So that can be those maybe at the start of their management journey, but all the way up to practice manager. We've got plenty of practice managers on program, some who've even been in that position for a number of years. So we knew we had the standards, but was thinking about actually how do we tailor it? How do we tailor it so it makes that journey, that learning journey, really makes sense in terms of embedding the learning in the real world, and giving people the skills that they actually need within primary care, and also creating a sort of community of those. Because if you do go on this learning journey, just be with other people from within GP practices and within primary care. So creating that kind of community, I suppose, of best practice. And obviously, it's informed by conversations and around things like retention. How do we improve that? What are the typical reasons that people might be leaving? What are the critical skills needs, and how do we address them? But obviously, overarching, of course, the 10-year plan. Obviously, those big shifts that we're well aware of. So making sure that we are then creating that curriculum that's addressing their needs. So you'll look at the curriculum in a minute, but to give you an example, analog to digital. So we needed to ensure that while the vanilla standard, yes, had an IT curriculum, actually we need to make sure that IT curriculum is contextualized. So it needs to be about EMIS, it needs to be about accuracy. We also need to be thinking about AI as obviously a huge shift that's coming in. So it's about making sure that we're delivering you guys the skills that you need today, but also thinking about actually that these programs are going to delivering these skills that practices need, not just now, but over the course of the next 2, 3, and 5 years. And also when we think about why, and I've probably covered some of this, but just an acknowledgement that actually the administrative skills that we may have needed in the past, are changing as with the different pressures that are coming into primary care, and obviously I mentioned digital, huge shifts in that space as well. Also acknowledgement that long-standing staff, so those in those practice management positions, many of them actually potentially nearing departure. So it's really, really important that we create those leaders for the future. And obviously, development programs like this is a very good way of doing that. Practices obviously are under more pressure. Clinical time needs freeing up. So we need to make sure that those within those kind of practice management positions and indeed below are developing those skills, including patient-facing skills, to take that pressure off the GPs. And again, we're shifting to neighbourhoods, so there's huge amount of orchestration that's going to be needed there. There's change management that is required. So again, it's about equipping people in management positions with those skills, so that they can play that part, in those key transformations that are coming. We've got the 2% year-on-year productivity improvement. Again, making sure that we have the necessary skills in things like finance and budgeting, and again contextualized for primary care, so that we can navigate those changes and see success in the future. Now, apprenticeships, everything I just talked about, apprenticeships just one thing, right? I'm not trying to make out that it's a panacea for all of those challenges and goals. But the good news is that we are seeing lots of success. I'll talk more towards the end about the success we're seeing on this program, and certainly the satisfaction that we're seeing from staff. But when we look wider across the NHS, we're seeing big numbers of individuals joining apprenticeships. We're seeing high achievement rates. We're seeing year-on-year improvements in that respect. We're seeing actually 90% of people are staying after they complete. So that's brilliant. People are training, they're having impact while they're training, and they're also staying on after. And more generally, actually, not just after they complete, but when we've polled people 2-3 years later on down the line, we're seeing that they are staying, and they're staying longer than the average population. So we can say that that the apprenticeships do have an uplift on retention. And equally, what we're seeing when we follow those individuals' careers journeys is that many of them moving into more senior roles within 3 years. So it's helping to sort of supercharge that career mobility that's so important. And we've talked about it. The program is tailored to your needs. So, given our background in training hubs and primary care, very, very confident saying that this is designed and delivered by people who understand your organisation. And of course, we didn't just do it alone. We did it with all the stakeholders, whether that's practice managers, program managers, clinical leads, etc. We spoke to a huge amount of people when we're developing programs, and continue to do so as we continue to improve them. As I mentioned, only for GP practices and PCNs. So you're creating that lovely cohort of individuals who are in similar roles, and that you can learn so much from each other. It's a tailored curriculum, and then also it's fully funded by the levy, and that's going to be organised by say the provider/training hub, ultimately be organised by ourselves. If you happen to be a training hub, some of you will be outside of NEL or NCL. Then it might be your training hub who organises that levy. But again, we have relationships with all the training hubs and can organise that. So key thing, you don't have to put your money in your own pocket to pay for the apprenticeship training, and neither does your practice. So let's now actually look at this program in more detail. So this isn't an exhaustive list. These are just some of the roles of the individuals that we typically see joining the program. But as I said, as long as you are managing people or things, then you should qualify for the position. You're going to look at the course curriculum in a moment, and what I encourage you to do is look at it and think, okay, when I look at this, are these things that I'm doing in my role? Because that's really important, because you need to be able to apply the things that you're learning into your job role as part of the apprenticeship when you're evidencing your knowledge, skills, and behaviours. So yeah, do I have exposure to these things I'm learning in my job role? But also encourage you to think about sort of where you are with that. If you consider yourself an expert and nothing to learn across all those modules, then probably not much reason to undertake the apprenticeship. So it's just I think it's about finding that balance of yes, I'm doing it, but I don't think I'm a 9 or an 8 out of 10 across all of them. There is room to learn and room for improvement. If there is, then you're a very good candidate for the role, because apprenticeships is about, yes, creating new skills, but it's also about upskilling those already in role. In terms of the other eligibility, I think pretty much everyone here, I'm guessing, will fall into it. In terms of being obviously over 16, not in full-time education, working at least 20 hours a week, employed in England, resident in the UK or the EA for the last 3 years. And then finally, this is I think the most important thing, and we'll go into more detail around what this 6 hours a week looks like. But you need to have the support of your employer and your line manager specifically, I think, to ensure that you are having time freed up. You think about your current workload, that you're in a position where you can delegate some of that workload, not take on more workload, so that you can undertake this apprenticeship during your working week. But I'll go into more detail as we go as to what that looks like, because it's not 6 hours contact time with us. It's not 6 hours away from your desk every single week by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, so in terms of the program, so 16 months. So 16 months plus 5 months for what we call the apprenticeship assessment. So you'll wrap up your learning with us based on this core curriculum after 16 months, and then you've got a time period in which you're preparing for your final assessments. Okay, so 20 months in total. Some people do finish a little bit quicker, some people may take longer, but generally, because you're in a cohort, probably in cohort of about 12 other people, ideally we want that cohort to kind of go at the same pace so that you're all learning together. In terms of the learning, so we call it a blended learning approach. What do we mean by that? So if you're in London, it's typically hybrid delivery. So once a month, and it's important to note, once a month you're going to have a workshop or a lecture, which will be based on these modules that you're being taught. And if you're in London, 1 in every 3 will be face to face. So that will be that will be at a GP surgery. Will be one of the people who's on the cohorts. We'll speak to line manager. We'll pick out a surgery that has the the appropriate space for it, or we may host at our own facility. So yeah, what we try and do is make sure that people are not travelling any more than an hour from their premises. So 1 in 3 will be face to face, and I think that's great. We get really good feedback on the face to face learning, but obviously from a flexibility perspective, virtual is also brilliant. So the other 2 will be virtual. If you've joined and you're outside of London, it's not to say that we can't do that, but typically we find, just because of the geography, it's less about how we travel, but more about getting the sort of cohort within a place that's sort of less concentrated together, means that it typically is a full virtual delivery. Those workshops, they'll be at the same time each month. After you apply and sign up, you get your schedule, obviously for the next sort of 21 months, and it will be don't take this as what it would be. This is an example of it. Might be the Tuesday on the 3rd week of every month, and there'll be 9:30 to 3:30. So pretty much most of your day you're going to be spent in that particular circumstance with us learning. You'll then have one-to-one sessions that will happen once a month for an hour. Online, can be face-to-face, but online is standard with your tutor. And then really the rest of the learning is going to be self-paced. So it's going to be readings and videos that we might ask you to watch, mini assessments that you might do. Won't count towards your grade at the end, but sort of after each month we'll ask you to pull together a workbook. What have you learned? How have you applied the skills? And then the final part is going to be the application of skills actually into the workplace. So a big chunk of it, and again I will talk more about this as we go, but a big chunk of it will actually be this. So ultimately, things you're already doing in your job role, but you're just taking, let's say you're working on an initiative around quality, perhaps it is quality improvements, and you're taking some of the things you're learning within the project management module, maybe on Agile or Waterfall or whatever it might be, and then you're applying that to that initiative you're running. So that's what I mean about the 6 hours is not, it's not necessarily 6 hours away from your day to day. It's a level 5 qualification, so it's comparable to the second year of a degree. And the other thing to say is about the assessment. So those 5 months you'll be preparing for your final assessment, which will be really about bringing your portfolio together, and your portfolios just you'll be doing all the way through, but you're reflecting on each of these modules and how you've demonstrated the knowledge, skills and behaviours. And you'll also pick out one project, so it might be a project on, say, financing and budgeting in primary care, and you'll pick out a project and the impact that had, and how you've taken all the knowledge and the theories and the best practice that you've learned, and then you pull that together into a 4,000 word essay or project. It's probably a better description. So hopefully that's giving you sort of an understanding of what that looks like. We'll talk a little bit more about the learning journey in subsequent slides. But I suppose in terms of curriculum, you guys will probably all have the course fact sheets. I'll send them again after today. That will go into a lot more detail around each of these. But yeah, I mean, to give you an idea, I suppose around the tailoring of it. So for example, operational management and healthcare, you'll specifically be looking at NHS structures there, integrated care, systems priorities, managing multidisciplinary teams. So you've got sort of generalist training on, say, conflict resolution and mediation, but obviously thinking about sort of primary care scenarios in that respect, leadership and management skills, and system leadership within PCNs and primary care. When you look at finance and budgeting, again, sort of general best practice, but then also looking, for example, at the sort of 3 contracts, so QOF and DES and LES, and then as I mentioned earlier, when you look at IT, it won't be just a generic IT training. It will be thinking about EMIS and ACRIX and how you best use those systems, to sort of analyze data and further your sort of system priorities. So hopefully that gives you a flavour of the curriculum. This is just a quick 5-minute video, which I think, if we're okay to do, we can press play and just listen to one of our apprentices feedback on their journey with us. So this is Emma Forrester, who's a practice manager in Newham. So I'm just going to play this video and then we'll jump back and we'll just wrap up by having a look at the some of the more specifics about the learning journey. Okay.
I became practice manager in 2021, bang in the middle of COVID, no staff, nothing, no qualification to be a practice manager, real experience in management in an actual apprenticeship academy. Throughout the years, I've learned a lot over the last 4 years, coming into 5 years, about practice management and the business side of operations and stuff. And quite luckily, my boss and my colleague said, would you like to do a course? And I jumped at it and said, yeah, absolutely. Anything for a qualification and just to learn and meet some people that are in the same field as me, where I can network and learn just a little bit more. And I know what an apprenticeship comes with. I know that it gives me some really good experience while working on the job, and that's the sort of qualification that I believe, not just because I've worked in apprenticeship before, that works well, and it just gives everybody an opportunity to get some really valuable experience and learn on the job. So that's why I chose to do it this way. I'm actually really enjoying the course. I really enjoy face-to-face classes. I love that. For me, it's much better. I've really found it quite interesting. I've enjoyed every moment of it. I enjoy my instructor, my teacher in the course is really knowledgeable. He knows what he's talking about, and I seem to get on well with everybody. I can contact him anytime. I can WhatsApp him, I can call him, and I've done that, if I've got a question, and he very much is there to answer it as well. So I'm really pleased with it myself. Although I am a relatively confident person, there's lots I don't know. There's lots that I can learn. Every single day you learn something new, how you deal with things, conflict, communication, strategies, all that sort of stuff. And this is really teaching me ways of doing that, and having the help of a class environment is super good for me, really good for me. I love working. I like learning as well. I'm at work a lot. I do all my training at work as well, but I do it with outline in my own time, because it's how I balance not stressing about something that I need to do. A lot of my learning is done on the job. I do it on the job as well. Time management is so important in this role. And it's important in this apprenticeship as well, because if I didn't allow time to do my course and my work, I would fall behind, which would increase my anxiety, be my best person in my job, because I'm anxious about doing a course. I like to try and stay on top of it, if not in front of it. And me having a level 5 qualification in business operations just drives me to think, once that's completed, what can I do after? And I mean learn. I don't even mean working. I mean learning first and foremost. And then in the future, I can go to different places where I can utilise those skills. I think off the top of my head, thinking, because so many of it we do already, the conflict training side of what we've learned in conflict has been really valuable to me, because how I deal with incidents is not how some other people deal with. So once we spoke about this in a class, I did come back and say, look, we need to really work on how we do deal with conflict. So I have really implemented that side of it into my working day. So I would literally say that one of the best ways of learning and working is to do an apprenticeship, in my experience, because working on the job and learning at the same time is going to give you the valuable experience it takes to move forward into the career. You're going to have a CV full of experience as well as knowledge. Then apprenticeship, you are learning on the job. You are learning on the job, and it is designed to do it in work time. The apprenticeships are probably the best way to get a qualification, which is the equivalent of whatever it may be. So for me, I would encourage people who are working and who want to learn, or who want to do an apprenticeship and work in the field, to do an apprenticeship. Hands-on training, hands-on learning, hands-on working and training, and doing all those at the same time is a really valuable way of getting into that industry.
Okay, guys, so hopefully that was valuable for you all. Just want to check that this is still, I think you guys can all see this, so let me know if otherwise. My view's slightly different after we came out of it, but I think we're okay. So you can still see it. Perfect. Okay. I probably talked about a lot of this already, you know, the 6 hours, and obviously that mixture of things that you'll be doing, the monthly sessions, the one-to-ones, the application into the role, and the self-paced learning, the sort of individual studies. You know, just to say that, you know, your tutor is there. Those one-to-one sessions, we can use them for many different reasons. We can catch up with maybe some of the things from the workshop that we didn't quite understand. You know, at some point you're probably going to have a holiday during the apprenticeship, so you might be away for a couple of weeks. So again, you know, using the tutor to catch up on things you might have missed. But also, you know, they'll be coaching you around how are you putting these theories, how are you putting this learning into practice. They'll be helping you to develop that portfolio we talked about that you'll be assessed on at the end. And then I think, you know, more broadly, just thinking around, you know, you're going to run into some challenges at work at some point. It is a sizable commitment. So you might have a month where you're really, really busy with work. Your apprenticeship's fallen a little bit down the priority list. So how can the tutor and you guys work together to make sure that we can get you back on track? And another really important part of that is the tripartite reviews. So there's a few commitments for your line manager throughout the apprenticeship, and this is probably the biggest one. So every 3 months we'll ask them to attend a 1-hour virtual meeting with yourself and with the tutor, and that will be a more formal review of progress. You know, where are you with your off-the-job hours that you're clocking? Well, yeah, more generally, kind of how are you experiencing the apprenticeship? And you know, we'll make sure that's all kind of recorded and captured, and we always leave those meetings with a plan moving forward. Obviously, we prepare you for that apprenticeship assessment. We don't pass anyone through, so we don't have any. Some people leave programs, that happens. We don't have any fails though, because we don't pass people through to the endpoint assessment until they are ready. So you know, we will set you assignments to test your knowledge and understanding, and we'll run like a mock interview with you know, obviously you'll be doing that sort of interview on your portfolio with an independent assessor. So we'll create a mock environment for that and make sure you're answering the questions in such a way that showcases just how well you've done on the apprenticeship. And then you'll end up with obviously a grade, and you can see the the various possibilities there. Learner commitment, just to we always get a lot of questions about this, and we may have some today and we can answer them, but just to give you an idea of typically, and it does depend, it all depends on the individual, it depends on your specific role, so it can vary person to person, because it's all about how much of the training you can take and sort of have that contribute towards your OTJ, your off the job hours, but this I think is a fairly typical example for one of these apprenticeships. So you've got over the course of a month, you've got that 6 hours totals up to 26. So you've got 7 hours of teaching sessions from that 1 monthly event I spoke about. You've got the workbook that we ask you to keep on top of after each module. And you've got the one-to-one meeting with your tutor. So it's about half the time, and then the rest of the time is obviously a lot more flexible. You can fit it in when you want to, right? Because it's your readings and And then obviously the workplace application, what can be included within that? Well, you can see down here, it's shadowing colleagues, it's providing cover for extra responsibilities, it's any project work you're doing, it's attending meetings. So ultimately, big chunk of that 6 hours a week are going to be things that you would be doing already, but you're just using this new learning to hopefully make that practice better. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a picture. In terms of commitments, obviously commitment from yourself is attending all those sessions, engaging in those sessions, having that positive attitude. Line manager, I think for this particular apprenticeship, because it's a management apprenticeship, I don't really see. It depends. If you're new to management, you probably, whether you're undertaking an apprenticeship or not, right? If you're new to a position, your line manager is probably going to be supporting you more than if you're 2 or 3 years into that position. But I think typically what we see is the big role for a line manager on these programs is really making sure that your time is actually protected. I think that's going to be most important. How do we free up that time for you? But of course, yes, they are responsible for ensuring that particularly attending those meetings and helping to ensure that you're on track. And then obviously our commitment to you is the quality of the teaching, the support we offer through the assessor. And I think, obviously as an organisation, we're always looking to improve. So, we have obviously lots of processes and feedback loops to make sure that that's possible. So we're pretty much time to wrap up. If you did want to join, just to let you know that you've got from the deadline in which people apply to the start of the program, tends to be about 3 to 4 weeks, and then there's a few things that you need to do. So we use a program called Aptum. Most apprenticeship providers use it. It's sort of your learning management system, and you need to log into that during your onboarding and upload documents and certificates. So there's probably about an hour's, I would say, admin work for you to do during that time. That includes a skills scan. So looking across those modules and rating yourself out of 10. I said really the thing that people fall foul of is rating themselves too highly, because then we'd have to have a conversation around, is this apprenticeship really right for you? And there is things that we expect your employer to do. So again, your line manager will need to complete some work on Aptum, and then your employer, which could be your line manager, as if you're a practice manager, you may even do it yourself. There is arrangements that we need to be completed in terms of, you need to have an apprenticeship service account. We need to connect you with a levy transferer. So we give lots of support around that, but I think it's good to set the expectation with your employer that there are a few things that you need to do. Obviously, when you do sign up, you get a handbook, and your line manager gets, and your employer gets emails telling them exactly what's expected of them. But if you're having discussions at the moment with your line manager employer, best to just set the expectation. There'll be a few things to do here. What do GP practices think of the programme? Well, we've had 63 members of staff join in the last 8 months, which is, I think, testament just how popular this programme is, and the benefits of that contextualisation. This really does help you in your real world environment, and I think also, as you can see here with the rating of the program is either excellent or very good, that people are really benefiting from the program and from that contextualization. And then finally, your next steps. So application deadline is the end of March. So we've got a couple of weeks to get that through. Can support you with that. We'll be following up from here with the slides and the next steps should you want to take them. And then the program is due to start at the end of April. So yeah, that's everything I have in terms of content, guys. I'm gonna stop sharing, and I'll welcome any questions that any of you guys might have.
But I started off and worked myself up, but I don't really have such qualifications, and learning help. That's the whole reason I'm doing this course. But you just put I think it was your email address just now. I just want to know what the next steps would be. Would you reach out to let us know the application form, or do we need to email to you?
No, we'll follow up. We'll follow up from here. So everyone who signed up to the webinar today will receive an email from myself or my colleague Saskia within the next 2 days. That will have the slides, and it will also have the application forms, and you'll also have a link to book a meeting with me if you feel like you need a follow-up conversation, or your line manager wants to talk to me. You can book that in. But to be honest, I'd hope it doesn't look like there's loads of questions that people have put in the chat box or anything. So I'm hoping that most of you, whether you want to join or not, you've had a lot of the detail now. So really, then just to decide, whether you want to sign up, and that form will be out there, and you'll have 2 weeks to apply. Does that answer your question, Jasper? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Brilliant. And just to say, guys, that we had today information from government that the government, in their wisdom, not a lot of people agree with this, but the government is effectively starting to defund a lot of the management. They did it last year with the level 7 leader. I can't remember what it's called now. Leadership. It was a level 7 leadership qualification. They defunded it, and they are doing it with pretty much all management qualifications now. They want to reshape apprenticeships so that more of the funding, even though it's not government funding, it's coming from the employers, but more of the funding is used by people at the start of their careers. So this apprenticeship is going to be available to sign up for. Certainly they won't do anything until September, they've said. Don't know how long they'll leave it open past that. With the level 7, I think they gave a year. So I don't want to paint the picture that this is the last chance to join, but it will be one of the last chances. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about this. For yourselves or for others, that this is a great program, but it's one that if you're going to look at it in 1 year's time, 18 months time, that unfortunately there wouldn't be an option to join it, or at least there wouldn't be an option to join it and have it paid for. I should probably make that distinction. So yeah, any further questions? Cool. I'll take that as a no. So I think someone dropped out and has come back in. But yeah, I'll take it as a no, that there aren't any further questions, which just leaves me to thank you all for your attendance, and hopefully see some of you on the programme in the near future. And as I said, we will follow up shortly with those details so you can make a decision on your next move. So yeah, thank you all very, very much. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.